1975, Charles left his home planning to travel the national park system to photograph the parks. And by January 16th through the 22nd, it's not too clear on which day, but that time frame, Charles had called his parents from Yuma, Arizona. So in a pretty short period of time, the 8th to the 22nd, he's already in Arizona. So by the 29th of 1975, this would be the last call that Charles would make to his parents, and he was in Eugene, Oregon. He said he was staying at a friend's house.
Yeah, so he really traveled in that month. I mean, he went all the way from, the
was
upper,
moving around.
Yeah, the northeast all the way down southwest, then back up to the northwest. So
yeah,
that's cool.
So on January 29th, while Charles was staying with his friends, he had told his friends that he was planning to travel to Crater Lake to photograph the park in winter. His plan was to return by the 31st, and he explicitly told his friends that if he was not back by February 1st to call the police. I'll give Charles credit here. He actually thought out a plan. All right, if I am going to Crater Lake, if I don't show up at this time, call the authorities, report me missing.
Yeah, there's a lot of stories of people who won't leave their itinerary.
It's
such a big deal and very important when you're going out, especially by yourself.
I can't tell you how many cases we've read where the person will just, go out into the park without telling anyone, doesn't check in with a park ranger office, and it really hampers the search and rescue team once they determine you are missing. So
sure,
it's great that Charles told his friends, where he was going, when to expect him back. And Charles' friends had said this was the last time that they saw him. Now, there are reports that on January 30th, a logger mentioned to police that he had given Charles a ride to the park entrance. If you're to believe this logger, we have to assume that Charles did make it to the park.
So he had a van, so I'm guessing his van could only make it to a certain point.
Yeah.
And he had to hitch a ride to get to a specific spot. So and now I'm going on assumption here. My assumption is he had a particular area he wanted to see. I'm guessing, and that's why he needed to get a ride to that spot.
Now, I won't bring this up now, but I have something new just popped into my head on this case relating to this logger, but I'm not going to get into it just yet.
Yep, save it for the big reveal.
Yeah, we'll save that for the big reveal. So, all right, February 1st rolls around, and Charles doesn't make it back to his friend's house. So, per Charles' order, his friends contact the local authorities and the National Park Service and report him missing. At that time, the Park Service, in coordination with state police, blanketed the area around the lake and the surrounding cities with flyers, and they also started a massive search and rescue operation. Okay. So, we've talked about this in other episodes. These search and rescue operations usually entail K-9 units, people on the ground, airplanes. So
we did have the National Park Service report that during that search, the snow depths were around 24 to 90 inches with drifts up to 20 feet.
That's insane.
It's insane because, that's a two-story house being covered in snow. So, so go stand outside. If you have a two-story home, go stand outside in the ground and think of snow covering your house up.
Now think of if you don't have the correct equipment to get through that drift, how are you going to travel through the park?
Yeah, and then for the searchers who don't know his in the park itinerary where he intended to go take pictures and stuff, that could be a nightmare to try and search for him. Yeah. And if you have drifts that big, I didn't see a wind report, but I'm guessing the wind gusts were ridiculous as well.
Yeah.
To create drifts that big.
Yeah, so just the conditions in the park at this time were not great. I can't imagine anyone wanting to go out into the park at this time, but Charles must have pushed through that to take these pictures, which, again, I think shows inexperience in the wilderness. I know for myself, and probably you, Joe, and the other guys we hike with, we would never go out there in conditions like that.
Oh, yeah. If I could get my car close enough, I might go 50 feet from my car for a picture. But never leave my car, hitch a ride to somewhere, and get dropped off. Then you're just asking for disaster.
So February 1st, obviously the search and rescue mission starts. The authorities are aware that Charles is missing. An odd tidbit in this case is that the law enforcement officials didn't notify Charles' parents that he was missing until February 10th, which I'm not sure if that's just a lack of coordination or what the issue was, but you would think that as soon as somebody goes missing, they're going to notify their family, next of kin.
Yeah, especially
that would know
because
him.
they know his friends, and his friends are the ones that called it. So I'm sure they could get the information. That's like, I'd say the first thing you ask, you're like, okay, give me the family information. Let's learn about what's going on, and then contact the next of kin.
And you would assume the state police would be, have the capability to figure out who his parents were. Find their number, their address, contact them somehow.
Yeah, you'd think so.
So you'd think so. So that doesn't make sense to me. I think
I
that
agree
might
with you. I think
that might
weird.
play into one of our theories at the end too. Something else just popped into my head. So
okay, this is good.
Yeah. So Charles goes missing February 1st, and the search and rescue operation commences. They don't find anything. A lot of time passes by. Actually, it almost up into early October of 1976 passes by before anything of Charles is found. So interesting, early October 1976, a group of hikers were well off the normal trails in a really desolate part of the park, what is known as Bibby Creek. I guess it's on the west side of the park.
Okay.
In this location, hikers found a backpack and a scarf. Within the backpack, the hikers found an odd-shaped key. So the hikers, they find these couple items. They mark the location with like a piece of clothing in a tree, and they hike back to the ranger station. They're in the ranger station going through the backpack with one of the rangers, and they mention this odd-shaped key, and there happened to be a part-time park official by the name of, I believe his name was Marion Jack. I'm looking at my notes right now.
Yep,
Marion Jack.
Yep. See, he's a seasonal law enforcement ranger.
Yeah. Now, Marion Jack was around in 1975 when they did the initial search and rescue, and he remembered those flyers that were passed around the lake and the different cities. One of the items that they said was with Charles at the time of his disappearance was an odd-shaped key. So Marion heard this and instantly was thinking, oh, this is the missing hiker from 1975. Marion walks over.
So the shape of the key was key.
Ah.
I see what I did there.
I see what you did there.
I'm being a little bit serious too, though. But like that, so it was odd enough that it struck the memory of one of the park officials there to know. So I'm guessing that leads to them identifying that, okay, this guy's key.
Well, so at this point, they don't know that it's Charles. This park ranger, Marion Jack, it's piqued his curiosity because he remembered that being one of the items on Charles. So
I'm sorry, but what a cool name for a ranger. I mean,
Marion Jack.
did he just walk around with an axe all the time, like over his shoulder, like just always just kind of like
I don't know.
One thumb in his belt buckle and the other one holding the axe on the shoulder. Just
I'm Marion.
Okay, I'm Marion Jack. Okay, just go. I'm sorry. Go on.
Thank you for that little tidbit there.
Yep.
So Marion walks over to the hikers and he starts talking to him, and the hikers draw a map of where they think they found the backpack in an area what the Marion called a Bibby drainage area. Okay. So Marion, along with another ranger by the name of Dave Lange, rode some horses out to that area. And like I said before, the hikers had hung a piece of clothing at the location, which is really smart. It's not something
they marked
you might
it for him.
Yeah, you might find this weird stuff in a park. Not everyone's instinct is going to be to mark that with something so someone else can find it. But give a lot of credit to those hikers. They figured something happened here.
Yeah, especially they get the heightened sense of if they feel like they've come across potentially a crime scene or a body, to be calm-headed enough to take account of their surroundings and
exactly,
get an idea of where they're at and then leave markers so that the rangers can get there.
So the rangers get to this scene, and this is where it starts getting weird. So the rangers arrive to where the hikers had marked finding the backpack, and they immediately begin searching the area. And within, it doesn't give a time frame, but it said rather quickly they come across a pair of pants in this small canyon. This is kind of a creepy description of the scene. Just try to, everyone listening, try to picture you're in this remote, desolate part of the park. No one should really be out there, and you come across this site. So Marion describes these pants as if someone was standing straight up, kind of looking up into the sky, and just melted into the ground. So the pants looked undisturbed, but kind of just...
Okay, so now I'm thinking, like... This will sound weird, but I'm sure everyone's kind of seen pants in the wild. Just laying there, like, where the heck did those come from? They're just kind of, like, sprawled out or crumpled up, laying on their side. So is this more like, if you think of, like, a firefighter, how they have their pants on their boots ready to get pulled up? Like, it's just...
Yeah, it's
like
kind
you
of
took
like...
them down into a pile?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, I think Marion described it pretty well. You know, just imagine, like your body just turned to liquid and you just fall straight into the ground and your pants kind of, fall and coil up.
Well, and then it makes me think, too, like it obviously was weird enough that he described it in a weird way. So even if it's not the best of description, he felt the need to describe it versus if he just said, oh, we found a pair of jeans that are this size.
And Marion, from what I understand, was a very seasoned park ranger in this area. So he's seen a lot of sites, and he's seen a lot of situations where people have, perished in the park. So
he's probably been on some search and rescues and other things
so
like that.
It's not a kind of guy who's going to easily scare or easily be puzzled, but in reading the reports from Marion, he was absolutely puzzled by this scene of the pants. He mentioned other weird things about the scene. So another weird thing he mentioned was the belt was undone and the pants were unbuckled. Which
weird.
It's weird, and Joe, we've both talked about what happens when people are, they get hypothermia. You actually start getting hot, and
when you're like super super cold and you start really losing.
Yeah, I can't remember the phrase for it, but when people have severe hypothermia, they actually start taking clothing off.
I'll look it up because we wrote it down in here.
It's not intuitive at first, but you get sensations.
Paradoxical undressing. So this happens a lot on Everest.
Yeah,
because you have the mix of that extreme cold plus the altitude and lack of oxygen causing your brain to get larger. So it puts pressure on your brain. You start making horrible decisions, and people will strip completely naked thinking they're super hot, and then they just freeze to death.
Yeah. So there is a chance that Charles was suffering from severe hypothermia and just started undressing. But as we describe more of the scene, I don't know that necessarily makes sense.
Yeah, then he would kick his pants off or something. Like I think
your
about
pants off.
If you're in a frantic move undressing, it's not going to be this nice, smooth melting of your clothing.
As they continue searching the area around the pants, Marion reaches down into the pants, and he found in one of the pant legs, I believe it was the right leg of the pants, he found a broken tibia or fibula, kind of broken in the middle with blood on each end. There were no other bones in the pants or in the area, so this was the only major bone. There were no arm bones, or the other leg bone was missing, no hip bone, no ribs or anything like that. So that's
what the heck.
That's weird too. And Marion says that he found this really odd, along with the way the pants were laying on the ground. So a couple other notes. He found some elastic from underwear, but the underwear themselves had deteriorated away. So some of the remains have been there a while. The pants and belt, he said, looked relatively fresh and undisturbed.
Mm-hmm.
I could see jeans lasting out in the wild. They're pretty tough.
Yeah,
and
especially
maybe,
then there's probably real canvas or tough stuff and not some cheap material like you might see today.
So it gets more interesting. Under the pants, Marion found socks with small bones inside, but no boots. The boots are missing.
If he was alone,
yeah.
So he kicks his shoes off.
Yep.
And just stands there and dies? Like you can't even imagine he'd be sitting down because of the angle the pants would be. Like It's almost like if he got like his feet got frozen to the ground standing upright. And then what happened to the rest of him?
It doesn't make sense. Why was his leg broken too? Is another.
Well, one leg broken and there's bones there. So like,
yeah,
I don't know. You'll have to tell me pretty soon. But like, we're assuming this is Charles, his pants. This is Charles' bones. Where are the rest of them? Why are some of them there?
Well, I have the answer for you, Joe.
Okay, good, because I'm starting to get a headache trying to understand this.
We have the official answer. I don't know if that really is the answer. But
okay.
We'll get into that. But so, like I said, under the jeans, the park ranger found socks with bone fragments in it. And Marion, again, was puzzled by the fact there were no boots. And they searched a pretty big area around where the pants were, and they didn't find boots anywhere. And Marion, boots are probably the heaviest thing that Charles would have had on him, and they're not going to blow away in the wind. They're probably not going to wash away. If the jeans hadn't washed away, the boots are definitely not going to wash away.
Sure.
And so that was another puzzling aspect of this area where his remains were found. And so there was no other items around the jeans, so Marion and Dave kept searching the area, and kind of pretty close to where the jeans were found on the other side of a fallen tree, Marion found a skull that was upside down and a lower jawbone. And around the skull and jawbone, they were also scattered with very small bone fragments.
So several feet away from where the pants were, they found essentially the head and the jaw.
Yep.
So we have, metatarsals, metacarpal bones, tib-fib bones, and a skull and a jaw. And there's nothing else.
Nothing else. As Marion described, there were no larger bones ever recovered from the scene. And so Marion and his other park ranger, they collect all this evidence, and they actually give it to the FBI's evidence recovery team. So
the FBI is involved here, and so we have to assume that we're getting a next level of competency in the case.
So FBI is involved now, at least in the aspect of analyzing the remains. I don't think the FBI ever opened a criminal case on this, but they were assisting the state police in the evidence that was recovered. So on October 18th of 1976, FBI special agents and state police detectives delivered the skull and jawbone to the Klamath Falls pathologist. In their expert opinion, they said the bones belonged to Charles, and they determined that the skull was undamaged. So
it wasn't like a blunt force trauma. I'm guessing That's what they mean by that. It wasn't like an attack.
Yeah, so he wasn't hit over the head or anything like that.
That could be, and that would be animal or individual. So like that, when I think of that, like a bear coming and getting you in the head, then